everybody. Good evening. Welcome to Classical High School's 6th annual Poetry Out Loud competition. So this year we have 29 classrooms that participated, and that means about 500 students competed on the classroom level. It's a lot. And we have 17 of the winners here that are competing to go to the state competition, which will be on March 17th at Bishop Hendricken. And the state winner will then go on to the national competition in Washington, D.C., where there's a total of $50,000, which is a lot of money, given in awards to the winners. 3 years ago, the national winner was Classical High School's own Amber Johnson. And tonight, our top 3 performers will win gift cards for Amazon.com and a chance to compete in the nationals after the state. Poetry Out Loud was created in 2005 by the National Endowment for the Arts and the Poetry Foundation to encourage the nation's young people to learn great poetry through memorization, recitation, and Rick Benjamin came into our classroom a little while ago and he said, it's not about memorization and recitation, it's about embodying the poem. So, you know, our guys tonight are going to embody these poems for us. I think that was a nice way to put it. The presenters tonight are going to be graded on the following criteria: physical presence, voice and articulation, appropriateness of dramatization, level of difficulty of the poem, evidence of understanding, overall performance, that's the X factor, and accuracy. Now it's time just for a quick reminder to everybody about theater etiquette. There'll be 1 minute between each of the presenters so that the judges will have a little time. Remember that this is not a pep rally, but please give up your applause and your enthusiasm when they're done, when our performers are done. And now would be a great time, if you haven't already, and I already did, I checked, turn off your cell phones and iPods and anything that's gonna beep. And please don't text while people are up here, although I doubt that they could see you because this bright light is blinding. But please don't do that. Try to avoid coming and going while people are presenting. And please return from the intermission promptly. And I think that's it for our rules. I think we're in for a really great night. We've got round 1, and then we'll have our intermission, and then we'll have round 2. So I'm gonna introduce our first presenter, and that will be Nicholas Ciniglio. Come on up.
Hi, my name is Nick Ciniglio, and I'm going to be reciting A Barred Owl by Richard Wilbur. The warping night air having brought the boom of an owl's voice into her darkened room, we tell the wakened child that all she heard was an odd question from a forest bird, asking of us, if rightly listened to, who cooks for you, and then who cooks for you? Words which can make our terrors bravely clear, can also thus domesticate a fear, and send a small child back to sleep at night, not listening for the sound of stealthy flight, or dreaming of some small thing in a claw, borne up to some dark branch and eaten raw.
Next we'll have Kimberly Dalton.
Revenge by Elizabeth Letitia Landon. I gaze upon her rose-wreath hair and gaze upon her smile, seem as who drank the very air her breath perfumed the while, and wake for her the gifted line that wild and witching lay, and sway her heart as a shrine that only owns her sway. 'Tis well, I am avenged at last. Mark you that scornful cheek? The eye averted as you passed spoke more than words could speak. I, now by all the bitter tears that I have shed for thee, the racking doubts, the burning fears, avenged they well may be, By the nights passed in sleepless care, the days of endless woe, all that you taught my heart to bear, all that yourself will know. I would not wish to see you laid within an early tomb. I should forget how you betrayed, and only weep your doom. But this is fitting punishment, to live and love in vain. O my wrung heart, be thou content, and feed upon his pain. Go thou, and watch her lightest sigh, thine own it will not be. And bask beneath her sunny eye, it will not turn on thee. 'Tis well, the rack, the chain, the wheel, far better hadst thou proved. Even I could almost pity feel, for thou art not beloved. Thank you.
Next we'll have Tessa Rudnick.
After Working 60 Hours for What Reason, by Bob Hicok. The best job I had was moving a stone from one side of the road to the other. This required a permit, which required a bribe. The bribe took all my salary. Yet, because I hadn't finished the job, I had no salary, and to pay the bribe, I took a job moving the stone the other way. Because the official wanted his bribe, he gave me a permit for the second job. When I pointed out that the work would be best completed if I did nothing, he complimented my brain and wrote a letter to my employer, suggesting promotion, on stationery bearing the wings of a raptor spread in flight, over a mountain smaller than the bird. My boss, fearing my intelligence, paid me to sleep on the sofa and take lunch with the official who required a bribe to keep anything from being done. When I told my parents, they wrote my brother to come home from university to be slapped on the back of the head. Dutifully, he arrived and bowed to receive his instruction, at which point sense entered his body, and he asked what I could do by way of a job. I pointed out, there are stones everywhere trying not to move. All it took was a little gumption to be the man who didn't move them. It was harder to explain the intricacies of not obtaining a permit to not do this. Just yesterday, he got up at dawn and shaved, as if the lack of hair on his face has anything to do with the appearance of food on an empty table.
Next we'll have Julie Phin.
As Children Know, by Jimmy Santiago Baca. Elm branches radiate green heat. Blackbirds stiffly strut across fields. Beneath bedroom wood floor, I feel earth. Bread in an oven that slowly swells, simmering my Navajo blanket thread crust. As white-feathered and corn-tasseled corn dancers rise in a line, follow my calf, vanish in a rumple, and surface in my knee cliff, chancing. Wearing shagged buffalo headgear, buffalo dancer chases dear woman across Sleeping Leg Mountain. Branches of wild rose, trees rattle seeds. Dear woman fades into hills of beige background. Red bird of my heart thrashes wildly after her. What a stupid man I've been. How good to let imaginations go. Step over worrisome events. Those hacked logs tumbled about in the driveway. Let decisions go. Let them blow like school children's papers against the fence, rattling in the afternoon wind. This red bird of my heart thrashes within the tidy appearance I offer the world. Topples what I erect, snares what I set free, dashes what I've put together, indulges in things left unfinished, and my world is left as children know, left as toys after dark in the sandbox.
Next we have Oyinda AKingbile.
Chicago by Carl Sandburg. Hog butcher for the world, tool maker, stacker of wheat, player with railroads, and the nation's freight handler. Stormy, husky, brawling, city of the big shoulders. They tell me you are wicked. And I believe them. For I have seen your painted women under the gas lamps, luring the farm boys. And they tell me you are crooked. And I answer, yes, it is true, I have seen the gunman kill and go free to kill again. And they tell me you are brutal. And my reply is, on the faces of women and children, I have seen the marks of wanton hunger. And having answered so, I turn once more to those who sneer at this, my city. And I give them back the snare and say to them, come and show me another city with lifted head, singing so proud to be alive, and coarse and strong and cunning, flinging magnetic curses amid the toil of piling job on job. Here is a tall, bold slugger, set vivid against the little soft cities. Fierce as a dog with tongue lapping for action, cunning as a savage, pit against the wilderness, bareheaded, shoveling, wrecking, planning, building, breaking, rebuilding. Under the smoke, dust all over his mouth, laughing with white teeth. Under the terrible burden of destiny, laughing as a young man laughs, laughing even as an ignorant fighter laughs who has never lost a battle. Bragging and laughing that under his wrist is the pulse, and under his ribs, the heart of the people. Laughing the stormy, husky, brawling laughter of youth, half-naked, sweating, proud to be hog butcher, tool maker, stacker of wheat, player with railroads, and freight handler to the nation. Thank you.
And next we will be hearing from Amaryha Bryan.
Pastoral Dialogue by Killigrew. Remember when you love. From that same hour, your peace you put into your lover's power. From that same hour, from him you laws receive, and as he shall ordain, you joy or grieve. Hope, fear, laugh, weep. Reason aloof does stand, disabled both to act and to command. Oh, cruel fetters, rather wish to feel on your soft limbs the galling weight of steel. Rather to bloody wounds opposed your breast, no ill by which the body can be pressed. You will so sensible a torment find as shackles on your captive mind, The mind from heaven its high descent did draw, and brooks uneasily any other law. Then what from reason dictated shall be? Reason, a kind of innate deity, which only can adapt to every soul a yoke so fit and light that thee control all liberty excels, so sweet a sway, the same tis to be happy and obey. Command so wise and with rewards so dressed, that the according soul replies, I'm blessed. Thank you.
Next we'll have Flannery Brown.
The Death of Allegory by Billy Collins. I am wondering what became of all those tall abstractions that used to pose robed and statuesque in paintings and parade about on the pages of the Renaissance, displaying their capital letters like license plates. Truth cantering on a powerful horse, chastity, eyes downcast, fluttering with veils. Each one was marble come to life, a thought in a coat. Courtesy, bowing with one hand always extended. Villainy, sharpening an instrument behind a wall. Reason with her crown, and constancy, alert behind a helm. They are all retired now, consigned to a Florida for tropes. Justice is there, standing by an open refrigerator. Valor lies in bed, listening to the rain. Even death has nothing to do but mend his cloak and hood, and all their props are locked away in a warehouse. Hourglasses, globes, blindfolds, and shackles. Even if you called them back, there are no places left for them to go. No garden of mirth or bower of bliss. The valley of forgiveness is lined with condominiums, and chainsaws are howling in the forest of despair. Here, on the table near the window, is a vase of peonies, and next to it, black binoculars and a money clip. Exactly the kind of thing we now prefer. Objects that sit quietly on a line in lowercase, themselves and nothing more. A wheelbarrow, an empty mailbox, a razor blade resting in a glass ashtray. As for the others, the great ideas on horseback and the long-haired virtues in embroidered gowns, it looks as though they have traveled down that road you see on the final page of storybooks. The one that winds up a green hillside and disappears into an unseen valley where everyone must be fast asleep.
Next we'll be hearing from Hailey Chappell.
I'm reciting I Felt a Funeral in My Brain by Emily Dickinson. I felt a funeral in my brain, and mourners to and fro kept treading till it seemed like sense was breaking through. And when they all were seated, a service like a drum kept beating till I thought my mind was going numb. And then I heard them lift a box and creak across my soul with those same boots of lead again, then space began to toll. as all the heavens were a bell, and being but an ear, and I in silence, some strange race wrecked solitary here. And then plank and reason broke, and I dropped down, and hit a world with every plunge, and finished knowing then.
Next we'll have Janell Brown.
The Paradox by Paul Laurence Dunbar. I am the mother of sorrows. I am the ender of grief. I am the bud and the blossom. I am the late falling leaf. I am thy priest and thy poet. I am thy serf and thy king. I cure the tears of the heartsick. When I come near, they shall sing. White are my hands as the snowdrops. Swart are my fingers as clay. Dark is my frown as the midnight. Fair is my brow as the day. Battle and war are my minions, doing my will as the vine. I am the calmer of passions. Peace is a nursling of mine. Speak to me, gently or curse me. Seek me or fly from my sight. I am thy fool in the morning. Thou art my slave in the night. Down to the grave will I take thee, out from the noise of the strife. Then shalt thou see me and know me, death then no longer but life. Then shalt thou sing at my coming, kiss me with passionate breath. Clasp me and smile to have got me, aught save the foeman of death. Come to me, brother, when weary. Come when thy lonely heart swells. I'll guide thy footsteps and lead thee down where the dream woman dwells. Thank you.
Hearing from Tim Shea.
A History Without Suffering by E.A. Markham. In this poem, there is no suffering. It spans hundreds of years and records no deaths, connecting when it can those moments where people are healthy and happy, content to be alive. A chapter, maybe a volume, shorn of violence, consists of an adult reading aimlessly. This line is the length of a full life, smuggled in while no one was plotting against a neighbor, except in jest. Then, after a gap, comes Nellie. She is in a drought-fisted field with a hoe. This is her 12th year on the land. And today, her back doesn't hurt. Catechisms of self-pity and of murder have declared a day's truce in the civil war within her. So today, we can bring Nellie, content with herself, with the world, into our history for a day. In the next generation, we find a suitable subject camping near the border of a divided country. For a while, no one knows how near. For these few lines, she is ours. But how about the lovers, you ask? The freshly washed body close to yours. Sounds, smells, tastes, anticipation of the young, the edited memory of the rest of us? How about thoughts higher than their thinkers? Yes, yes. Give them half a line and a mass of footnotes. They have their own privileged history, like inherited income beside our husbandry. We bring our history up to date in a city like London. Someone's just paid the mortgage, is free of guilt, and not dying of cancer. And going past the newsstand doesn't see a headline advertising torture. This is all recommended reading, but in small doses. It shows you can avoid suffering if you try. Thank you.
Next, we'll be hearing from Lolade, Ashamu.
Her Head by Joan Murray. Near Ikumvukuni in Natal, South Africa, a woman carries water on her head. After a year of drought, when 1 child in 3 is at risk of death, she returns from a distant well, carrying water on her head. The pumpkins are gone, the tomatoes withered, yet she carries water on her head. The cattle kraals are empty, the goats gone, no milk now for children, but she is carrying water on her head. The engineers have reversed the river. Those with power can keep their power, but one woman carries water on her head. In the homelands where dusty crowds watch the empty roads for water trucks, one woman trusts herself with treasure and carries water on her head. The sun does not dissuade her, not the dry earth that blows against her as she carries water on her head in a huge and dirty pail with idle handle resting on a narrow can. This woman is carrying water on her head. This woman who girds her neck with safety pins, this one who carries water on her head, trusts her own head to bring her people what they need now, between life and death. She is carrying them water on her head. Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Kinte Howie.
Children of the Poor by Gwendolyn Brooks. 1. People who have no children can be hard, attain a male of ice and insolence, need not pause in the fire and in no sense hesitate in the hurricane to guard. And when wide world was bitten and bewarred, they perished purely, waving their spirits hence without a trace of grace or of offense, to laugh or fail diffident wonder starred. Through the throttling dark we others hear, the little lifting helplessness, the queer whimper whine, whose unridiculous lost softness softly makes a trap for us, and makes a curse, and makes a sugar of the malocclusions, the inconditions of love. 2. What shall I give my children, who are poor, who are adjudged the least wise of the land, who are my sweetest lepers, who demand no velvet and no velvety valor, but who have begged me for a brisk contour, crying that they are quasi-contraband, because unfinished graven by a hand less than angelic, admirable, or sure. My hand is stuffed with mode, design, device, but I lack access to my proper stone. And plenitude of plan shall not suffice, nor grief nor love shall be enough alone to ratify my little halves who bear across an autumn freezing everywhere. 3. And shall I prime my children prey to prey? Mites come invade most frugal vestibules, speckled with crusts of penitentials, and all hysterics arrogant for a day. Instruct yourselves here is no devil to pay. Children, confine your lights in jellied rules. Resemble graves, be metaphysical mules. Learn Lord shall not distort nor leave the fray. Behind the scurryings of your sweet motif, I shall wait. If you wish, revise the psalm. If that should frighten you, so it believe. If that should tear, turn, singularly calm. At forehead and fingers rather wise, holding the bandage ready for your eyes.
Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from Jennifer Enriquez.
That Country by Grace Paley. This is about the women of that country. Sometimes they spoke in slogans. They said, "We patch the roads as we patch our sweethearts' trousers." The love will stop, but not the transport. They said, "We have ensured production even near bomb craters. Children, let your voices sing higher than the explosions of the bombs." They said, "We have important tasks to teach the children. That the people are the collective masters, to bear hardship, to instill love in the family, to guide the good health of the children. They must wear clothing according to climate." They said, "Once men beat their wives, now they may not. Once a poor family sold its daughter to a rich old man, now the young may love one another." They said, "Once we planted our rice any old way, now we plant the young shoots in straight rows, so the imperialist pilots can see how steady our hands are." In the evening, we walked along the shores of the lake of the restored sword. I said, "Is it true? We are sisters?" They said, "Yes, we are of one family." Thank you.
Next, we'll hear from, I can't seem to say it, we'll hear from Max Bynum.
Abandoned Farmhouse by Ted Kooser. He was a big man, says the size of his shoes, on a pile of broken dishes by the house. A tall man, too, says the length of the bed in an upstairs room. And a good, God-fearing man, says the Bible, with a broken back, on the floor below the window, dusty with sun. But not a man for farming, say the fields, cluttered with boulders and the leaky barn. A woman lived with him, says the bedroom wall papered with lilacs, and the kitchen shelves covered with oilcloth, and they had a child, says the sandbox made from a tractor tire. Money was scarce, say the jars of plum preserves and canned tomatoes sealed in the cellar hole. And the winters cold, say the rags in the window frames. It was lonely here, says the narrow country road. Something went wrong, says the empty house in the weed-choked yard. Stones in the field say he was not a farmer. The still sealed jars in the cellar say she left in a nervous haste. And the child, its toys are strewn in the yard like branches after a storm. A rubber cow, a rusty tractor with a broken plow, a doll in overalls. Something went wrong, they say.
Next, we'll have Cleo Byrne-Gudding.
The Albatross by Kate Bass.
When I know you are coming home, I put on this necklace, glass beads on a silken thread, a blue that used to match my eyes. I like to think I am remembering you. I like to think you don't forget. The necklace lies heavy on my skin. It clatters when I reach down to lift my screaming child. I swing her, roll her in my arms until she forgets. The beads glitter in the flicker of a TV set as I sit her on my lap and wish away the afternoon. I wait until I hear a gate latch lift, the turn of key and lock. I sit amongst toys and unwashed clothes. I sit and she fingers the beads until you speak in a voice that no longer seems familiar, only strange. I turn as our child tugs at the string. I hear a snap and a sound like falling rain. Thank you.
Okay, and we're going to be starting with Janell Brown. Come on up.
The Incident by County Cullen for Eric Walren. Once riding in old Baltimore, hearts filled, head filled with glee, I saw a Baltimorean keep looking straight at me. Now, I was 8 and very small, and he was no whit bigger. And so I smiled, but he poked out his tongue and called me nigger. I saw the whole of Baltimore from May until December. Of all the things that happened there, that's all that I remember. Thank you.
Next is Perla Benitez.
For Love by Robert Creeley for Bobby. Yesterday, I wanted to speak of it. That sense, above the others, to me important because all that I know derives from what it teaches me. Today, what is it that is finally so helpless, different, despairs of its own statement, wants to turn away, endlessly to turn away? If the moon did not, no, if you did not, I wouldn't either. But what would I not do? What prevention? What thing so quickly stopped? That is love. Yesterday or tomorrow, not now. Can I eat what you give me? I have not earned it. Must I think of everything as earned now? Love also becomes a reward so remote from me, I have only made it with my mind. Here's tedium, despair, a painful sense of isolation and whimsical if pompous self-regard. But that image is only of the mind's big structure. Big to me, because it is my own. Love. What do I think to say? I cannot say it. What have you become to ask? What have I made you into, companion? Good company, crossed legs with skirt, or soft body under the bones of the bed. Nothing says anything but that which it wishes would come true, fears what else might happen in some other place, some other time, not this one. A voice in my place, an echo of that only in yours. Let me stumble into not the confession, but the obsession I begin with now. For you, also. Also some time beyond place, or place beyond time. No mind left to say anything at all. That phase gone now. Into the company of love. It all returns. Thank you.
Next will be Tim Shea.
A Farmer Remembers Lincoln by Whitter Bynner. Lincoln. Well, I was in the old 2nd Maine, the 1st Regiment in Washington from the Pine Tree State. Of course, I didn't get the butt of the clip. We was there for guard in Washington. We was all green. I ain't never been to the theater in my life. I didn't know how to behave. I ain't never been since. I can remember, as plain as my hat, the box where he sat in when he was shot. I can tell you, sir, there was a panic. When we found our president was in the shape he was in, never saw a soldier in the world but what liked him. Yes, sir, his looks was kind of hard to forget. He was a spare man, an old farmer. Everything was all right, you know, but he wasn't a smooth-appearing man at all. Not in no ways. Thin-faced, long-necked, and a swelling kind of a thick lip like. And he was a jolly old fellow, always cheerful. He wasn't so high, but the boys could talk to him their own ways. While I was serving at the hospital, he'd come in and say, "You look nice in here." Praise us up, you know? And he'd bend over and talk to the boys. And he'd talk so good to them, so close. That's why I call him a farmer. I don't mean everything about him wasn't all right, you understand. It's just, well, I was a farmer. And he was my neighbor. Anybody's neighbor. I guess even you young folks would have liked him. Thank you.
Next we have Hailey Chappell.
I'll be reciting You Charmed Me Not With That Fair Face by John Dryden. You charmed me, not with that fair face, though it was all divine. To be another's is the grace that makes thee wish you mine. The gods and fortune take their part, who like young monarchs fight, and boldly dare invade that heart which is another's right. First, mad with hope we undertake, to lift up every bar. Then, once possessed, we faintly make a dull defensive war. Now every friend is turned a foe. In hope to take our store. And passion makes us cowards grow, which made us brave before.
Next is Kinte Howard.
Caged Bird by Maya Angelou. A free bird leaps beats on the back of the wind, and floats downstream to the current ends, and dips his wing in the orange sun rays, and dares to claim the sky. But a bird that stalks down his narrow cage can seldom see through his bars of rage. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The cage bird sings with a fearful trill of things unknown but long for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the cage bird sings of freedom. The free bird thinks of another breeze, and the trade winds soft through the sighing trees, and the fat worms waiting on a dawn-bright lawn, and he claims the sky his own. But a caged bird stands on a grave of dreams, his shadow shouts on a nightmare scream. His wings are clipped and his feet are tied, so he opens his throat to sing. The caged bird sings of a fearful trill, of things unknown but long for still, and his tune is heard on the distant hill, for the caged bird sings of freedom. Thank you.
Next we'll have Cleo Byrne-Gudding.
Beautiful Wreckage by W.D. Earhart. What if I didn't shoot the old lady running away from our patrol, or the old man in the back of the head, or the boy in the marketplace? Or what if the boy, but he didn't have a grenade, and the woman in hue didn't lie in the rain in a mortar pit with 7 Marines just for food? Gaffney didn't die. Gaffney didn't get hit in the knee. Ames didn't die in the river. Ski didn't die in the medevac chopper between Con Ting and Da Nang. In Vietnamese, Con Ting means place of angels. What if it really was, and was not a place of rotting sandbags, incoming heavy artillery, rats, and mud? What if the angels were Ames and Ski, or the lady, the man, and the boy, and they lifted Gaffney out of the mud and healed his shattered knee? What if none of it happened the way I said? Would it all be a lie? Would the wreckage be suddenly beautiful? Would the dead rise up and walk?
Next is Jennifer Enriquez.
Ways of Talking by Hai Jing. We used to like talking about grief. Our journals and letters were packed with losses, complaints, and sorrows. Even if there was no grief, we wouldn't stop lamenting, as though longing for the charm of a distressed face. Then we couldn't help expressing grief. So many things descended without warning. Labor wasted, loves lost, houses gone, marriages broken, friends estranged, ambitions worn away by immediate need. Words lined up in our throats for a good winding. Grief seemed like an endless river, the only immortal flow of life. After losing a land and then giving up a tongue, we stopped talking of grief. Smiles began to brighten our faces. We laugh a lot at our own mess. Things become beautiful, even hailstones in the strawberry fields. Thank you.
Next is Bax Binder.
After Working 60 Hours Again, For What Reason? By Bob Hicok. The best job I had was moving a stone from one side of the road to the other. This required a permit, which required a bribe. The bribe took all my salary. Yet, because I hadn't finished the job, I had no salary, and to pay the bribe, I took a job moving the stone the other way. Because the official wanted his bribe, he gave me a permit for the second job. When I pointed out that the work would be best completed if I did nothing, he complimented my brain and wrote a letter to my employer suggesting promotion. On stationery, bearing the wings of a raptor spread in flight over a mountain smaller than the bird. My boss, fearing my intelligence, paid me to sleep on the sofa and take lunch with the official, who required a bribe to keep anything from being done. When I told my parents, they wrote my brother to come home from university to be slapped on the back of the head. Dutifully, he arrived to receive his instruction, and at which point sense entered his body, and he asked what I could do by way of a job. I pointed out there were stones everywhere, trying not to move, and all it took was a little gumption to be the man who didn't move them. It was harder to explain the intricacies of not obtaining a permit to not do this. Just yesterday, he got up at dawn and shaved, as if the lack of hair on his face has anything to do with the appearance of food on an empty table.